But for now, we are going to return our attentions to British politics, and lots of reaction all day, of course, to that government High Court defeat over how it triggers Article 50. We've been getting reaction all day, so let's get more now from the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Tim Farron, who joins me from our studios in Salford. Thanks for waiting to speak to us, Tim Farron, juggling politics on both sides of the Atlantic today.
I know my place. I'll wait for Obama to finish.
Thank you very much. Your thoughts on this government defeat in the High Court?
It's a shame that it came to this. And in the end, what the government was seeking to do was to impose a deal that absolutely nobody voted for, that most people who voted to leave wouldn't be happy with, and most people who voted to remain wouldn't be happy with, without any kind of parliamentary scrutiny. So it's a terrible shame it had to go to the courts, but what has happened is that democracy and sovereignty has been restored, and now what we want from the Prime Minister is leadership. We want clarity, because at the moment what she appears to be seeking to do is to take the vote to the 52% and to twist those votes into what a very small minority of people voted for, which was a hard Brexit, not just out of the European Union, but out of the single market, which is of so great a set of importance for our jobs, for prices, for everybody in this country.
So you feel that continuing debate in Parliament about all of this is still very important, do you? Because it won't surprise you to learn we've interviewed a lot of people today who've said, well, goodness, we've debated this endlessly in Parliament already. Why do we need even more discussion?
So people voted for departure in June, and you've got to respect, I do, respect the narrow majority that there was. I think in democracy you need to do two things if you're on the wrong side of a vote. First is you accept defeat with good grace, and secondly you don't give up. And my sense is that we are seeing a campaign now for the right kind of approach for Britain's future relationship with Europe, in or out. And it seems to be with such a narrow majority for leave, then clearly people didn't vote for hard Brexit. And going for a set of priorities with our relationship with the European Union, which means us being full members of the single market, seems the right place to start. So it's all the more important that Parliament does scrutinise. I remember speaking to people in Witney in the by-election that concluded a couple of weeks ago, where the Liberal Democrats had the enormous swing to us. People who'd voted Leave in June, who voted Liberal Democrat in that by-election because they felt Theresa May had stolen their vote and twisted it to something they didn't mean. They'd voted to leave the EU, but not to leave the single market. This gives us the democratic sovereignty to make sure the government doesn't impose upon the British people a stitch-up.
Right. I wonder, though, whether this ruling is going to leave an awful lot of MPs from all parties quite conflicted, because there are lots of MPs who themselves, as individuals, thought this country should remain part of the EU, but they represent a constituency where the vote clearly went the other way. Well, I wonder what MPs in that position are going to do.
Well, I mean, as an MP who represents an area that voted to remain in the European Union, I nevertheless very much respect people who will want to listen to their local electorates. But for me, this is not about undoing the referendum. You know, the direction of travel for the UK government is to negotiate a deal to exit the European Union. I do accept that, however much I might regret it. The problem is people voted for departure and not destination. And that's why the deal, whatever it is, could we be in or out of the single market, part of Europol, not in Europol, having the arrest warrant across Europe or not? These things are vitally important, and we don't know what they'll be. So to impose, as a result of discussions in the modern equivalent of smoke-filled rooms, a deal that nobody voted for on the British people is a recipe for a complete lack of consent in our democracy. So we support there being a referendum on the terms of the deal. And if the government offers that, then we will proceed. If they don't, it's right for us to stand up for democracy and say that the people should decide, not have what began with a democratic decision in June, end up with a stitch-up.
Is this going to delay the process hugely? Do you think Theresa May, of course, had said she wanted to get Article 50 done by the end of March at the latest? Is this going to slow things down, do you think?
Well, the important thing is to do it right, isn't it? I mean, what you don't want to do is be in the position of jumping out of an aeroplane without a parachute on your back. And that's basically what triggering Article 50 without a clear sense of where you're going would entail. triggering Article 50 will be part of a bill, by the way, and a bill would include all sorts of things, and it could include provisions for there to be a referendum on the outcome of the deal and strengthening our position in terms of our negotiation with the European Union. The problem is if you trigger Article 50 without any kind of sense of what your deal is going to be, you give all the cards to the other party and we end up getting a very bad deal.
This could really slow things down, do you think?
No, well, no need to. If you have proper leadership, what's slowed things down in many ways has been the fact that the government has had no plan. They've been chaotic and all over the place. You listen to Liam Fox and David Davis and Boris Johnson and Theresa May, and you get four completely conflicting ideas of where we go next. That lack of leadership is crippling for business, by the way, who have no certainty about which way this country is going. If the government sets out, they don't need to give us a running commentary on the detail, they need to set out their clear agenda, which must surely be to remain full members of the single market, even if we leave the European Union. If they do that, they will reassure the markets, they'll reassure business, and the progress towards a Brexit, a soft Brexit, would be entirely possible. No need for that to slow things down. But in the end, surely you can't start this process with democracy, as we did last June, and leave with a stitch-up. In the end, the British people must have their say. And we might say, oh, we're fed up of a referendum. Well, look, we started this with a referendum. Surely that's how we're going to finish it. Otherwise, there'll be a complete lack of consent for whatever comes next.
All right. Tim Farron, we must leave it there. Thank you very much, leader of the Liberal Democrats. Thank you.